Hello and welcome back to our video series which sees me, Creative Head Editor Amanda Nottage, chatting to some of the leading Wella creatives from across the industry. I'm going to be delving into their career paths, their inspirations, their workspaces and anything else that might pop up along the way. Joining me today is UK Wella Professionals Technical Director Robert Eaton, who also happens to be Creative Director of Russell Eaton Salons up in Yorkshire. Robert, thank you for joining me on the sofa today.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely to see you. Now, obviously I've mentioned there that you are at Russell Eaton Salons.
That's right.
Your dad's
Yes.
salon company.
Yeah.
Was it always going to be hair for you? Or was there ever another career path that you had in your mind?
Yeah, for a long time, I was always interested in hairdressing, and I think growing up around a family business, I was kind of immersed into it from a very early age.
Of course.
So I can remember going into the salon as a child and playing in the salon, and then obviously starting work on a Saturday as soon as I could. I mean, for a short while, I was interested in anything kind of arty or more graphic, kind of graphic design related, but I soon came back to hairdressing. I mean, I just loved the whole environment of the salon. I was so inspired by the kind of people that were in there. Everybody was so much fun. It was a really kind of exciting atmosphere. So yeah, hairdressing soon became my career of choice.
It's in the blood.
Yeah.
It's in the blood. Well, why colour particularly? What was it that grabbed you about the technical side?
I think for me, colour was always fascinating. I was amazed that you could change somebody's look instantly by just changing the colour of their hair. And also the way it made them feel, the confidence they had. And although hair cutting is obviously a massive part of what we do as well, I think over recent years it's almost changed a little bit. Colour is almost, well, it is the same level of importance as a haircut, and in some ways rather than colouring a haircut, it's very much about cutting hair to make the colour show through and work to its absolute best now. So colour's always been something I've been really inspired by. And I think being part of the family business, Dad always wanted to make sure I was really kind of knowledgeable about all aspects of the industry, and I think colour was just something that just really inspired me. And
looking at where we are, 2019, what is it about colour that excites you right now?
Do you know what, there's so many exciting things about the world of hair colour at the moment.
Oh, go on, share a few.
You know, first of all, from trends. I mean, there's so many different trends out there, whether it's longer lasting trends or micro trends that you can see on Instagram, and trends that stylists are creating themselves. Product innovations now, that's totally transformed the way that we work, so we can be far more creative with the kind of work that we're actually producing in salons and for shows and collections and things. And also it's kind of making sure we've got hair integrity at heart as well, so we can create so many different things using hair colour but whilst also maintaining the amazing condition of hair.
So you mentioned there about trends, micro trends. For 2019, what is it that's really got your juices flowing?
Yeah, so there's so many different techniques out there at the moment. But one of the trends that I'm really excited about is something that Zoe Irwin helped Wella Professionals create. Yeah, so she's created some amazing techniques and trends that we're working with at Wella Professionals. And one of the ones that I'm most excited about is texture embrace. So this is really looking at the type of hair textures that we're perhaps traditionally used to working with in salons, and also making sure that we're educated and really kind of experimenting with the techniques that really embrace lots of different types of hair texture.
You mentioned there Zoe, and obviously you're part of the Colour Creatives.
Yes.
So that's a hell of a dream team anyway.
Yes.
But if you had all the funds at your disposal, anybody in the world, who would you have in your dream team?
Well, my dream team. It's a really difficult one actually, because there's so many amazing people in our industry.
I know. It's mean
to kind of narrow it down. I mean, do you know, it's funny with the kind of team that you're used to working with. I mean, I know I've mentioned being part of a family business. I've always worked very closely with Dad and had his expert eye glancing over whatever we create for the Russell Eaton brand, but also whatever I do outside of the industry. He would always be a must within my team.
Okay.
And I've also, you know, we've mentioned the Colour Creatives team. I mean, at the minute, it really is a dream team. So we've all got our own sort of individual strengths. So I'm really excited to see where the next few years develop and evolve with what we can bring to Wella Professionals, and hopefully create some really great trends and great things that ultimately, hopefully inspire hairdressers as well.
Fantastic. Now, speaking of inspiration and working creatively, I want to know, what do you need, Mr. Eaton, in terms of the space, references, the time, to get the best work from you, to get your creative juices flowing?
Do you know what I think was really interesting you said about time there? Because I think for myself, working and managing and running the 2 salons, it's that flip between the business element of what we do and driving the colour business in the salon to working creatively as well. And I always find I need to have that bit of time just to sort of sit and just really reflect on what we're working on, look at trends that we find emerging within our own salons and by our own team, but then obviously looking out there within the industry and the wider fashion picture as a whole as well. I mean, we're so lucky now as hairdressers. There's so many different sources of inspiration. Instagram at our fingers, Pinterest, and as well as all the different fashion magazines that perhaps we would always look at as well. So it's such an exciting time for any hairdresser in any element of the industry, but particularly for colour as well. I think it's so inspiring at the moment.
You mentioned there Instagram.
Yes.
Social media.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is of huge importance, and I would argue a positive platform for you guys to share your work.
Yeah.
But do you feel under a particular amount of pressure to be sharing a certain amount and upping those followers? And how do you measure all of that and kind of keep the pressure on you to a manageable level?
It's such an interesting topic, this, because I think there is an element of pressure there out there in the industry that we should have so many followers or should be doing so many social media posts. In some ways, I'm glad that I've experienced life without it.
Right,
but then also I really recognise the importance of social media. I think it's transformed our industry and it's amazing for our industry. From a client perspective, there's so many people now that come in with Instagram pictures, but equally they want Instagram ready hair and they want the filtered hair, they want the look straight away. And I think it's a great tool for us to use as hairdressers and to promote ourselves. Another thing I think that is important with social media now as well is that you don't necessarily have to be based in a big city or in London to do some of the creative work that perhaps you used to do.
Right.
You can be based anywhere across the country or anywhere in the world and be showcasing the kind of work you're doing in your salon or as a freelance hairdresser and get your sort of name known with people like Creative Head magazine as well, much more easily than it ever used to be. So it's been an amazing addition to what we do within the industry.
Other platforms, the stage.
Right, okay, yeah.
You spend a lot of time now on the stage, particularly with your role with Wella Professionals, and I watched an incredible show by you at Trend Vision UK final last year. What's the secret, would you say, to presenting on stage and engaging the audience?
Do you know, I think for me it's about being authentic and being yourself, really. I mean, for many years, I don't think it's something that sort of presenting on stage came naturally to me as a person. And I think I've kind of learned to perhaps do it more and find my own kind of my own way of doing it, my own style. But I think it's about being authentic and just trying to be yourself, and obviously doing the work that you want people to see as well. I mean, it was an amazing opportunity to work on the Wella Trend Vision final show last year, and I loved every second of it. But I think it's kind of grasping those opportunities, making sure you do the work that you're really proud of, and hopefully the industry and people watching enjoy that as well.
If there's been one key lesson from across your career that you could pass on to a young hairdresser in your team, what would it be?
My number one kind of lesson or piece of advice would just be to watch and learn from as many different people as possible. And again, the industry is amazing now. Everything's so open. We're great at sharing everything within the hairdressing industry. And I think it's there's never been a more exciting time for a younger hairdresser entering the industry, because there's so many ways of learning now as well. Whether it is watching shows and events live, whether it's looking at things on Instagram, whether it's watching video tutorials. But I definitely think it's just watching and learning in whatever you possibly can in so many different areas of the industry, and just kind of gaining that knowledge as well. But also appreciating that actually watching people over a period of time, it's not just a quick instant route to success. It's very much about letting that knowledge build up and then hopefully it's showing in your work and over time becoming successful.
Fantastic. What would you say infuriates you about modern hairdressing?
I think probably the thing that infuriates me the most actually is part of that last question. It's probably the speed that everybody wants things now. And also I think with social media and the fact that perhaps there's an element of everybody wanting to be known and famous out there, we perhaps sometimes lose focus of actually the importance of just mastering your craft and mastering the skill set that you're wanting to create. It's not always about showing everything via picture on social media. It's enjoying the moment that you're creating something, as well as everything else that's around it as well.
Now, I don't want to get all negative on
Yes.
you, but I want to ask you, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made? Because I want to make sure everybody realises you're only human,
Yes.
but also mistakes are a fantastic learning opportunity. So I want to know what the
yeah.
biggest one is that you've ever had to endure and what you learned from it.
I think, oh God, every hairdresser's got so many mistakes, I'm sure.
They're my
and
favourite stories.
I mean, you can always draw on the early days of your career when you first begin in hairdressing, and I think probably for me, it's maybe understanding the taste level of how you should have placed colour, and I definitely did some colours wanting to prove that I could create the brightest, strongest colour, maybe suitability-wise, maybe wasn't as important. Yeah, I always remember one instance in the salon when I first qualified. Actually, I was doing a colour for Dad, and this is going back quite a number of years when cap highlights were still around.
Yes.
And I remember virtually pulling every strand of hair through this cap and removing it, and it being this kind of shocking white, well, yellow-white kind of result. But I think, as you just said, though, the mistakes you make sometimes are what make you as a hairdresser moving forward as well. And I think it's learning from those mistakes. And thank God nobody ever uses those things anymore, hopefully.
I remember the headaches. Oh, man. Now, you've mentioned your dad. He'd be part of your dream team.
Yes.
Would you say, I mean, he's obviously been a mentor to you. Has he been the greatest mentor, you would say, so far in your career, or have there been others that have had a really important role?
I think obviously Dad's been a massive part of the immediate kind of mentoring that I've had through my training, and then obviously working with the two businesses. I think he's played a big part of that. There's so many people in our industry that I've drawn inspiration from, and that I've kind of, I would say, been mentored by over the years, whether it's been people like Keith Harris working on the shoots with me in the early days, people like Josh Wood whenever he's been back in Barnsley, because he's also from Barnsley as well.
Of course, yes.
He often came and did his best friend's hair in our salon when he was back up in the north, and I was always so massively inspired by what he was creating in the salon. But then now I draw inspiration from so many other people as well, some of the younger hairdressers that are kind of sharing their work via social media or watching them in seminars and shows and things. So we're just part of one kind of big hairdressing family, I think, really. So it's great that everybody shares their work, and I think that in turn helps to mentor you as a hairdresser, whatever level that you're at as well.
Looking specifically as you as a colourist.
Yes.
We are seeing, as you mentioned, colour has just exploded in the industry, and I think in terms of what clients are interested now, it is so much more on the colour side than necessarily cutting. So for those young hairdressers looking to actually make a career out of colour specifically, what would our guru here, Robert, what piece of advice would you share with them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. I mean, hair is the ultimate fashion accessory, so colour is a huge, huge part of that. And I think actually as an industry, it's going to keep growing, evolving and changing. For me as a colour technician, there's some really important things to always remember. It's understanding the fundamentals of what colour can and can't do, understanding the fabric that you're working on, so understanding the hair texture and the different types of result you will get on different hair textures as well. So it's really understanding the basics. And then for me, it's really about training your eye. So it's understanding the kind of taste levels of what will work and what won't work. I think, within that, I'm sure all colourists will agree you'll make some mistakes and you'll learn, throughout that process. But it's very much about understanding the taste level of what can work for you as a hair colourist and what kind of work you want to project within your industry, or also within the industry, but also for your clients as well. For me, I would always say it's important to experiment on hair wefts and really get a feel of what different colour results you can create using the colour brand that you work with. But number one is definitely understanding colour, understanding the fundamentals and the basics of working with colour and the colour products that you're using with and the results that you're going to get.
And as the UK Technical Director at Wella Professionals, you've risen to the top there, but do you still make sure you're educating yourself? You don't ever sit back and relax?
Do you know what I mean? And again, that's, as I mentioned before, it's great that there's so many different avenues that we can learn now. So I'm doing all the same things that I'm telling our team members to do, and anybody watching this as well. I mean, it's so important to stay ahead of, or on the ball really, with what's happening out there in the industry as well. I mean, there's some amazing colourists in our industry, and so I think it's so important to see what everybody else is doing, but constantly keep re-educating yourself as well. So a few years ago, I trained as a trichologist, which was a different area of the industry, but it's something I found found so valuable and so important as a colourist as well, that I've been able to incorporate some of that knowledge within the technical work that I create as well. So yeah, it's so important to keep kind of educating yourself and moving forward and never stopping.
Robert, thank you so much for your time today. I've loved having this little sit down with you. We should do this more often.
Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps without the cameras next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.